e ngā hapu, e ngā marae, e ngā kaitiaki o te iwi o Waikato, tēnā koutou, whakatau mai, nau mai haere mai ki tēnei kōrero, pāna ki te rauna pūtia o te taunei. Ko Taupiri i te maunga, ko Waikato te awa, ko Pōtatau te tangata, ko Ngāti Makirangi te hapu, ko Julian Williams ahau. Tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome to this kōrero about the annual funding round for the Waikato River Cleanup Trust. To all of our whānau that are listening right now, it is important to understand the context of the funding round. I work for the Waikato River Authority, and the Waikato River Authority was established under the Waikato Tainui Raupatu Claims Waikato River Settlement Act to achieve one purpose, to provide for the restoration and protection of the Waikato River for future generations. To achieve that aspiration, the Waikato River Authority was established, and it was given two tools. One of them was to act as kaitiaki of Te Ture Whaimana o Te Awa o Waikato, which is the primary direction-setting document for the Waikato River and all activities within its catchment. The second objective was to distribute funds negotiated by Waikato Tainui for the benefit solely of the Waikato River. So for iwi, hapu and whānau that are interested in us providing for aspirations for your marae, for improving and restoring that relationship of yourself with the awa and for your mokopuna, I encourage you to help us achieve that objective, to restore and protect the health and well-being of the river by having a kōrero to our team here at the Waikato River Authority and having a discussion about opportunities to develop some projects at your awa, at your piko, at your roto, at your repo, at your manga, so that you can restore your relationship and help us further the objective of the river settlement. I'll now hand you over to Michelle Hodges, who will take you through the funding application and answer some questions for you. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Michelle. So we're here today to talk about the upcoming funding round for the Waikato River Authority. So maybe you can start us off by just giving us an outline of the process involved in that funding round.
Sure, Phil. So each year the Authority runs a funding round where we award around $6 million to projects that help improve water quality in the Waikato catchment and help us to achieve the vision and strategy for the Waikato River. So the funding round opens around June each year and closes early to mid-August. It's an online process, so people will need to go into our website and go to the funding applications page and check out our online application form. There's also basically everything they need to know about the funding round, our criteria, the kinds of projects that we're looking for applications for that year. And people should have a look at our funding strategy. So each year we produce a little funding strategy booklet. This is 2022, but we upload the new version each year onto that website.
So it seems like if the website's a good place to start if you're thinking about a project?
Yes, absolutely. If people have a project idea, I think probably go to the website first, have a look at the funding strategy, see how that project might align with our priorities. If they're still not sure, give me or one of the team members a call. I'm happy to have people just bounce their ideas off us, or even send an email if that's easier. And just we can kind of give them a steer whether it's something that would likely be funded or how they might be able to shape it a little bit differently to fit our criteria a bit better.
So if you're thinking about a project, do you have to have funding from other parties before you approach the River Authority for funding?
So we do recommend that applications have at least 50% funding from other sources. There are some exceptions for applications that are led by iwi authorities, river iwi authorities, or marae or hapu groups. So if you're one of those groups, probably come and have a chat to me and I can explain in a bit more detail what the requirements are around co-funding. But for the majority of projects, we recommend 50% of co-funding from other sources, and that can be a mixture of cash and in-kind. So, for example, if you're a landowner putting in an application and you're going to be doing some fencing and you're going to be doing that yourself, your own labour, then that can be costed in as an in-kind contribution. And if you've got cash funding from another funder perhaps, then that contributes to cash co-funding. So you add those two together, and if that comes to around 50% or more, then you're good to go.
So how much can I apply for?
So we have got projects from as little as kind of a few $1,000s through to over $1 million. So it really depends on what it is that you're wanting to do and how it fits with our priorities. You can apply for 5 years worth of funding in one go, and we do recommend people who are doing projects, particularly planting projects where you need to have kind of a few years to get those plants established. We do recommend that people do follow through and apply for 3 to 5 years worth of funding, just to allow time to be able to do the maintenance on those kind of projects. And obviously if you're applying for 5 years worth of funding, that will be a larger application than if you were applying for just 1 year's worth of that project funding. So there's no limit really, it just depends on your project and how it stacks up with priorities. And obviously your costs need to be in line with what market costs would be. But if you're not sure about that, then just contact us and we can have a conversation about it.
So is it a difficult process applying for funding?
It takes time. Like I'll be honest, like it's not a quick form to fill out. You do need to make sure that you do your background work, put together a good project plan. I think the application form is much easier to fill out if you have a really good plan written down on paper. We do ask for people to provide evidence of support from River iwi, and so it takes time to engage appropriately with River iwi. And we also do ask that people talk to the landowners and get, if their project's on private land, then make sure that they get appropriate permissions and provide evidence of those permissions. So there's a lot of steps in the process, and I think it's important to start early and make sure you understand what's involved in filling out the application form so that you can give yourself plenty of time to gather the information that's required. And once you have all the information, it's not too difficult just to get it all in that application form. The form is online, so if you're not really good on a computer or you just don't feel that confident about using a computer, then I recommend that you grab someone who you know who can help you. It'll just make it a much more stress-free process.
So what about iwi projects? Have you got a different criteria, or is there a different approach that the River Authority takes when assessing iwi projects?
So we've funded quite a lot of iwi-led projects in the past, and we would like to see more iwi-led projects being applications coming in. We're a co-governance organisation. Obviously we were set up through a treaty settlement with Waikato Tainui and other river iwi. And so part of our criteria involves looking at how projects give effect to iwi environmental plans, and we also have a criteria around whether your project engages river iwi or they are involved in the project. So you will score more favourably through our process if your project's undertaken in collaboration with local iwi.
So are there any particular projects that you could highlight, that you'd like to highlight? I mean, obviously the River Authority's funded a lot of projects to date.
We certainly have funded a lot of projects. There's just so many. I could just give you an example of some of the things that we've funded. We've got really large catchment scale projects where we're funding kind of 50 to 100 landowners to undertake work on their properties that will help improve water quality and reduce the impacts that farming has on water quality. And then we have smaller projects which are about restoring kind of mihinga kai sites for iwi, capturing iwi cultural and historic knowledge in relation to the Waikato River and waterways that feed into the river. We've also got projects that are about restoring taonga species, improving habitat for tuna or eel, which are a taonga species for Māori. We've also got restoration of whitebait spawning areas, projects that remediate barriers to native fish. So our native fish most of them need to migrate between the ocean and headwaters to complete their life cycle, and there are many barriers in a lot of cases, culverts, floodgates, dams, that they can't get past, and so we've got some projects to help remediate some of those barriers. So it's a massive variety, and I think people should go have a look at our website. We've got some really great project stories of examples of things that we've funded, and there's also a map there that shows everything that we've funded and a little bit about each of those projects. So rather than going into depth about any particular project, I just think people should go and have a look on the website and just get an idea for themselves what we've funded and what it looks like.